hospital, even though I feel like it cannot continue like this, it still continues. Sometimes even worse than before, but it still continues.
I didn't really understand the metaphor with the water.
Feeling like sometimes when you think there's no way out, there's no way out, and you feel like as if there's a wall and you can't either go, you turn around, you can't go any further, but still there is continuity, and it still continues. Yeah. So it's good to check that also, to remember moments like this when we thought like totally hopeless. Maybe we failed the exam and we thought life is finished and all this, or we didn't get the job or whatever, and still there's continuity, and maybe something even better came out of it, who knows? Maybe something worse also, because we don't know, we can't compare because we didn't do that thing. Yeah. So uncertainty. We cannot trust our government, we cannot trust our economy, which we would like to trust, but no. We cannot trust our happiness because it comes and goes. We cannot trust that we will be spiritual practitioners until we die. It can also just all of a sudden, the whole interest is gone. Happens to quite a lot of people. So then if it happens to you, instead of being sad, just be happy that you you kind of planted some good imprints on your mind. That will ripen in another life, and you can continue. It's fine, instead of feeling guilty and sad. There's no point. Yeah. Like sometimes people, they go to the East and they practice very diligently, and then they take all these initiations with all these commitments. They come back home. I don't know if any of you have experienced that. They come home and then they see how little time is at home to do these commitments that sometimes last an hour, 2 hours. And then they start to complain also to the lamas, my whole practice is falling apart. And the lamas usually say, don't worry, you practice very well here, now you're back in the West, you have other things to do, it's fine. Yeah, not to worry, not to feel guilty, but to be happy about the things you've done. And we definitely cannot trust our mind, that it will be compassionate and kind and together and stable. They can flip just like that. Yeah? Nobody who is paranoid or psychotic or whatever, nobody planned it. It just happened. Yeah? No control. Uncertainty. Then unsatisfactoriness. It's also an aspect that is always there. Because deep down we are looking for lasting happiness. Because we would have a right to have it, because that is our nature. To be in constant bliss. That's the nature of the mind. So the mind is constantly kind of going, hey, not it works, but the mind is pushing us to have more happiness. The problem is the progress that we're making it outside. You see, if you think of people who lived here 500 years ago, yeah, compared to what we have now, our comfort, medical system and all that, do you think if they see us, they would think that, wow, they should be happy? You can go to the hospital, you need an operation, you're sleeping, they cut you open. Sometimes if you watch movies from the Middle Age, when people had tooth extraction or having to, we have a museum where they have these saws. Already in Middle Age, they were doing surgeons. They had surgeons who were barbers at the same time usually, and so they would perform operations. So can you imagine, without any anesthetic, to kind of sew you, to amputate your leg because it's full of gangrene or like this. So when they see us, peacefully lying there in hospital, and they do and so when they see us going to the shop, taking something from the shelf, they have to grow it. Sticking in a plastic card, walking out of the shop. Wouldn't you think that, or like light, boom, light comes on, fire, fire is there. They would think this is all magic. Yeah? Sometimes they make movies like this, going back in time or coming forward, when they don't understand what is happening. They think we're all witches and wizards and things like that. So that's why we made so much progress, in order to have more comfort. But was it really worthwhile the effort? Do we have a happier society? To some extent, I would say yes, but not really. Nagarjuna says the low or the poor have physical suffering, the high or the rich have mental suffering. These two sufferings conquer the world every single day. I think he's right. And you don't need to get depressed, because there's a way out. This is just the first noble truth. One forgets, and then again you go into that thing. So unsatisfactoriness, of course it gives us, to make progress and more, but we're looking in the wrong place. Instead of developing our mind, doing more kindness and more wisdom, we develop the world outside. And then it becomes a burden, and on top of it, we're destroying the environment with all our search for comfort. Yeah. Now, another of these things that is totally unsatisfactory, but is only for the Buddhists, repeatedly having to leave your body in order to repeatedly having to be born again and again and again and again. Yeah? So we have so much struggle. And this is what dying people sometimes they actually ask. They say, is this it? Is this what this struggle was all about? So that now I have to go? And so I have a friend who works in a hospice. So then we have, sometimes I visit there, and hospice, it's a place where people don't get treatment anymore. They're just made very comfortable so that they can die in comfort. It's a very nice place. They have physiotherapists, art therapists, psychotherapists, doctors, nurses. It's a really nice place to be. And it's totally non-sectarian, all the religions also are present in some kind of symbols everywhere. So sometimes she says, people, it is as if they're waiting for something, like they thought that life is more than just what it was. And this is why they can't die, because they think maybe the last moment it will come. That thing, but it doesn't. Yeah. So, we have time. This is why every morning I make you sit down, and you're already sitting when I don't make you sit down, but I invite you to think, what do I want to do so that I don't have to wait for this last thing at the end of my life. I can go peacefully and say, okay, I did what I could, good enough, goodbye. Yeah? It's your decision what you want to do with your life. But basically, we put so much effort into what is called worldly things. Possessions, friends, family, like relationships, and this body. And the three things at the time of death, they collapse. You cannot take them with you. What you take with you is your karmic imprint. The residues or the seeds or the potentials of your actions. That's what you take, nothing else but that. They say dying is like a hair being pulled out of the butter. Of course now in Israel you don't have much hair in the butter. The Tibetans have hair in the butter. You know why? Yeah, exactly, because there's nomads. So the nomads, they have yaks or zos, because the yaks don't give milk. Yaks are only male. Zos, they produce milk. So out of that they make chura, cheese, or butter. And then they put this into goat skins in order to go very far, to transport it very far, to trade it for salt or for dried apricots or for tsampa or for something like that. So the goat skins are like this, the hair is inside and outside is the leather. So this is why sometimes in the Tibetan butter you find hair. This is why they can take this analogy. Dying is like a hair being pulled out of the butter. How much butter sticks on the hair? 0. In German we say the last shirt doesn't have any pockets. You have something like this in Hebrew?
Yeah.
Huh?
So it's something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Do your dead bodies, do they wear shirts? Because in Europe they do.
No, it's not shirt. It doesn't have pockets.
But do you close up the body or does it
Yes.
get buried naked?
It's wrapped.
Huh? It's wrapped,
wrapped,
okay,
yeah.
so then it doesn't go so
Okay.
because
And there is no pockets.
in Europe, yeah, so but in Europe it's really a garment that you wear, either a very long shirt or like even now, they dress them up like going to a party. The guys' costumes and tie and the women wake up and all this, like what for? Yeah. Shoes. Somewhere like one point I went to help with the funeral and then we couldn't close the coffin because of the shoes. And if the pillow was there, so we had to take away the pillow so we could close the pocket. And then the coffin went into the fire. It was very impressive to see a daughter. Her father had died, who is a Buddhist. She's not a Buddhist. She'd asked me to come if I could do some rituals, mantras, so I went. It's very impressive to see how the doors open and then it goes very quick, the coffin goes into this glowing thing. It's incredibly hot, that oven. Yeah, repeatedly having to leave the body again and again and again. In order for what? In order to be born again and again and again, and the whole same cycle starts again. This whole struggle starts again. Then another suffering is, or another thing that is not satisfactory is moving from high to low constantly. This you see in old age. You lose your capacity, you have not so much money anymore, Have you ever noticed how even rich people become quite stingy in their old age because nothing new comes in? Yeah? How they have like fear of not being able to have enough. I have a friend, a nun friend. I had a friend, she died. She died from cancer. And she was somebody who was very needy. She always wanted something. Every time she was in Lama Paltro's place in Lahore. She was preparing her 3-year retreat in that cave where Tenzin Palmo was staying. She developed cancer. And she said, when I knew that I was, because they said, look, sorry, there's nothing we can do in Manali Hospital, they operated her. So they opened up, cut a few things out, closed her up again, says at the most 6 months. This is India, they're not very emotional about this whole thing. And so she said, you know what, I was totally calm. It's the first time I went down to Padmasambhava statue there in one of the monasteries, and I didn't ask for, I didn't please, inspire me or bless me or help me to get a 3-year visa or to have enough money or to get the food up there and all this. I was sitting there totally wishless. I was so happy because I knew I had enough money, I knew the visa would be long enough, and I didn't need to buy new books. Yeah. So, see, instead of freaking out when we know that we have to die, then we can say, okay, make the best of the time that I have. And she did. She did. Somebody invited her to come to America, a nurse, so that she could die in comfort. She said, no, I'm going back to Lahore. In the winter, she died in February. 40 degrees below zero, no heating, cancer, like, big cancer here in her belly. No running, no hot water, no bathroom, no bathtub. Very courageous. Very, very courageous. But she died next to a Lama who, the moment she died, he started doing practices. He prepared her really well, So he told me, Lama Paltro, so he told me when she was about to die, she couldn't open her eyes anymore, and she was asking what's happening, so he said, okay, now you do what I told you to do, and we will start the practices. And she died, with him and Nawang doing the practices. I don't think I would have the courage with such a sickness. I would be too scared of the pain, not being able to control it and all this. And she wrote me some very interesting letters also still, because she said, it's really amazing. I'm lying here and whatever water I put into my body comes out as tomato sauce, meaning like she was losing a lot of blood. But I still, every time the door opens, I think somebody will come to visit me that is not from here somehow. This expectation that something changes or that somebody comes to visit her, and she's able to see it and to describe it. It's very interesting to see her process in these last, it was 3 months only, in these last 3 months until she died. She died at Losang, New Year, New Moon. So, yeah. So, moving from high to low, like we always have to come down again, and being alone in this process. So we think, we have a lot of friends and the family and all this, but actually, how many of you have really felt that loneliness when it seems as people can't understand you? Nobody? Everybody. Everybody. When you have pain, nobody can take away that pain from you, especially mental pain. Nobody. Even you, people are wanting to help you and share it with you. The pain of having lost somebody that you were very attached to. Nobody can help you with that pain. Yeah. We are born alone. We have to go alone. And what is creating that aloneness? I and them. That is what is creating it. Instead of a very good understanding of us, our view of a really self-sufficiently autonomous I, permanent I, me, is creating, very spontaneously, the view of I and them, separate. That is creating that aloneness. And it's not satisfactory. And you notice it in those moments. Did you find it very satisfactory? Oh, finally, I'm left alone. Nobody understands me. I can just do or be whatever I want. Was that the case in those moments? Would you call such a moment suffering? Yeah. Hurts. Yeah. Pain. Here. Mental pain. Pain, the pain of rejecting what is going on. The pain of rejecting impermanence. The pain of rejecting that there's a law of cause and effect. Whatever is ripening now is a past cause, but then it's ripened and then I can let go. It's like every suffering is a healing process because it purifies negative imprints from the past. And then it depends how you react. You see, same way, if you have a seed and that seed meets the conditions to grow, earth, warmth, and moisture, then the seed will grow. Then you can either just look at it and not do anything about it until it's grown into a tree and then get, I didn't want this tree, and then you try to do something about it. It's very difficult. Or you can say, no, I don't want this, and you just pull it out. And as it grows, it makes many, many more seeds of the same kind. Yeah? That is the problem. Then we have this 8 sufferings, is like for the first 4, they're very, very often mentioned. This is what the Prince Siddhartha saw when he came out of the palace. What made him start practicing? He saw 4 things. He saw a sick person, which he had never seen before because his father was trying to protect him from all suffering. He saw an old person and he saw a funeral. And then he saw what is called a mendicant or a sadhu, like somebody who had renounced life. And it seemed that as if this sadhu had some peace. So then he got interested in what is this guy doing. So he came home and he asked his dad, well, do you mean to say everybody gets sick? Do you mean to say that everybody kind of gets old? Do you mean to say that everybody dies? And his father said, yes. And then Prince Siddhartha said, and what's the point of all this struggle and all this conflict? If you, with your kingdom, you cannot protect yourself or your people there. That's why he left home, to look for the answer, out of compassion. So do you think birth is suffering? Huh? Do you think birth is suffering? We don't remember, but when you look at the baby being born, do you think the baby suffers? No. Huh? The baby.
I don't know.
He's
I
not
don't think so
smiling.
though.
Just looking. Have you never seen a baby? Have you never seen a birth? Oh. Okay, then go and assist the birth. So those people who have seen birth, or who have given birth, do you think the baby suffers? Of course.
Yes.
You know, coming from this very dark space where you've been there 9 months, quite secure.
There are some babies that you need to, I don't know, to do something so they will cry. So maybe they want something or didn't.
Okay, I just describe you what is happening, okay? Okay, so even if they're not slapped anymore afterwards, then they stop crying?
I don't know.
Okay, those people who had babies, okay, what you say is like they only cry because they're being slapped so that they start breathing.
Maybe I just don't know.
Okay. Okay, but try to, you know, it's like, if you look, that this very, if you have experienced it, like the mother at least knows what is happening. The baby has no clue. Coming out from, it's very confusing, from this very dark space, where the sounds are a bit muffled, into this very bright kind of hospital room, through this very small channel. It's far too small for that body. It's too small for the mother, and it's too small for the baby. I mean, and you say that it's not suffering? Then on top of it, the moment you're out pain, you're being slapped. You know?
But it's only suffer when you call it suffering. The baby doesn't know it that he's suffering.
You think the baby has no feelings?
No, but I don't know. I don't know, but maybe it's
Okay.
just the same as
You have friends who have small children?
Yeah.
Okay, go and live with them for a while.
No.
And you will see how fragile babies are. How quickly, you know, a little bit of air in the stomach, little bit of hunger, a little bit too hot. It's like they cry so much. It's quite rare that there are babies who don't cry, you're right, but very few. Very, very few. Yeah. And so what they used to do in ancient times in Germany, they told me, they would put their, how do you call this, you know, the rubber thing?
Motzets.
Huh?
Motzets.
Motzets. They would put the motzets into schnapps, you know. Give it to the baby so that it would calm the baby down.
In Israel it's Arab.
They also do?
Arab.
Yeah. So, yeah, because as a baby, you're so sensitive. Of course, we don't remember, but we went through the same thing. You know, needing so many conditions to be comfortable. Yeah. Maybe the mothers, can you please affirm that? No? All your babies were quiet and never cried and were very happy?
No, what you said.
Huh?
What you said is right.
Yeah, that's what the Buddha says. Birth is suffering. And if you look, you know, the mother screams, there's blood everywhere. I mean, where is the happiness there? Excuse me. In the act of birth. I'm not talking the mental thing, you hoo-hooey, finally you have children and the baby is being born and all this. I'm talking about the action of birth. It's violent. It's very violent. But we think of it as something wonderful. This is how we come into this world. You know, then we are surprised that we're a bit neurotic. Yeah? Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. So then somebody also, I think it was Geshe Sonam and somebody said, you know, then being in that liquid there is like being in a swimming pool. Geshe Sonam Rinchen said, yeah, but who want to be in a swimming pool that size for 9 months? You know, excuse me, like this, you have no space to move. This is why they kick also, because they have no space. Quite traumatic. Anyway, so birth, sickness, being sick, you think is happiness?
No.
Huh?
No.
Can we be clear about this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. again, you know, you can say, yes, but it can be happiness. You don't want to go to work, or you have an exam and you're sick, and then you don't need to go, but you still have to do your exam and you still have to do your job. So again, but in general, you know, it's your wedding day, you wake up in the morning with a migraine, excuse me. That's the other extreme you're definitely not going to be happy about. Or me, if I have to give a course and I don't feel well, you know, I'm not happy about being sick because I know I'm limited, which I'm anyway. So then, old age, so for the older people, what do you think? It's happiness?
No.
Losing your sight, losing your hearing, losing your ability to move, your flexibility, being very fragile, you know, it's difficult. Taking a shower is difficult. Cutting your toenails now with me, I've got quite a bit of fat here on my stomach. All of a sudden I have problems cutting my toenails. Now I'm starting to think, do I really have now to invest to go to a pedicure? Shit, it's so expensive. All you have to do is, I can't reach, especially the small one. I can't reach anymore. Right? It's suffering. It's not satisfactory, I'm sorry. You know? You have the same problem.
I'm starting to have.
Yeah, because I'm also, you know, I'm too lazy to do yoga. It's my fault, I do know. So this is it. If you don't do anything, this happens. Of course, if you do a lot of yoga. But you know, even you do a lot of yoga, even if you always eat the right food, maybe when you're 80 you look like 60, but it's still old. So what's the point? Again, you know. So it's this whole thing. Then death, you think death is suffering? Or happiness? Well, if you think it will not be no suffering for you, leaving behind all the things you struggled so much to get, you know, then okay. But it will be suffering for your friends, or your family, losing you. It will be happiness for your enemies, maybe, yes. But in general, like, people are sad usually on a funeral. If I look what's happening on a funeral, it's usually sadness. It's not like, oh, finally. When somebody is very sick and they have a lot of problems being able to die, then there is some sort of relief. That is true, but only when they're old. Yeah. And also, what I also noticed, like, what I maybe want to mention, because I found it very, very meaningful. A lady in Germany also, she was asked by somebody, what is it, an old lady, what is it that you regret the most in your life? And she said, what I regret the most is about having had so many fears. Because I only had the fears before the thing happened. Once I was in the middle of it, funny enough, the fear was gone, because I had to react. And she said, I spent a lot of time having fears, and this is what I regret. And I saw that thing when there was a young mother who had cancer, and they knew that she was going to die, and she had 2 children. The family stopped living while she was still alive because of the fear of her dying. The moment she died, it was sadness, of course, but they started living again. Yeah. See, we have this unrealistic thing. When we are afraid, maybe we can ward it off. We cannot. So death is suffering, the Buddha says. You don't have to agree with it. That's what the Buddha says. Having what you don't want is suffering. Is it? Yeah. Do we agree on that?
Yes.
Yeah. Losing what you cherish is suffering. Cherish means what you like very much and you try to protect. Your telephone. Do you cherish your telephone? David says no. Yeah, okay. How would you react if it disappears? With all the addresses on it? Well, now it's all in the clouds, is it? So.
I have a 50 shekel. 10-year-old.
Yeah, that's the best.
So.
See, also, if you go to India, if you go and travel in India, do not take any of your electronic gadgets with you. You just get nervous on these endless bus journeys. You know, if you have a few Baba clothes for 50 rupees, you put it in your backpack, that's also not worth much. You put it on the roof of your bus so you have space to sit. You know, if you have a lot of valuable things, you need to hold it on your lap. You just put it on the roof, it gets wet, no problem. Somebody steals it, no problem, and you're totally relaxed. So otherwise you spoil your time in India if you have all these gadgets with you, because you're constantly afraid, and you have a good chance that somebody will steal it. So many things